Good morning, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Getting ready to have a great day out here on the river. Going to be in surgery in a little bit. And whatever you got in store for you today, I hope that you're with us on Remodel May. It's the 19th day of Remodel May. We looked at all kinds of different ways that we can break down walls and reconstruct things and let the master carpenter, the master designer, the great physician help us to remodel our lives more like his. I've been reading Eugene Peterson lately. I don't know how I missed him. I read The Message, of course. I've used that translation and used it and learned a lot from it. Of the Bible. If you've never read The Message, it's a great study tool. Wouldn't recommend it as your foundational Bible to read, but when you're trying to get a little bit deeper into a scripture, using a different translations can be helpful. So getting a parallel Bible, like on BibleGateway.com, you can put 2 or 3 versions up next to each other, and you can read different translators' take on the original languages, and sometimes it'll help you gain some insight. And Eugene Peterson was great at just sort of saying, hey, what is this actually saying to the person who would have heard it at the time it was written, in the ears that they would have had, the understanding that they would have had, and what would the language have sounded like to them, and what was the message that they were being presented with. And it's just great. But somehow I never realized Eugene Peterson also wrote dozens of books. And the first one that he wrote was called A Long Obedience in the Same Direction. This book was rejected by 17 publishers. 17, and he kept pressing on. It's finally InterVarsity Press, I think it was, that published it originally. And after that, he published 28 books in the subsequent 20 years. I mean, the guy had turned out to be an amazing writer. I've read 2 of them now. First, Mark Rogap the other day tweeted about Run with the Horses, which is a study by Jeremiah. It just blew my mind. So then I'm going to go all the way back to the first. I saw another tweet from an old friend of mine, Mark Jones, who's a test pilot, used to be in the military, almost became an astronaut. He was a test pilot for Honda. Now I think he flies drones. And Mark, just a brilliant kind of polymath, but he's also a pilot and a great reader. And he was the guy that nominated my book, No Place to Hide, for the United States Air Force Chief of Staff's reading list way back in the day. And so he's been helpful to me, and we've been kind of online friends. But the other day he tweeted, hey, if you like Run with the Horses, you'll love Long Obedience in the Same Direction. So I thought, well, I'll read that too. And man, what a great book. But while reading that book, Eugene Peterson said something that there's a whole bunch of meat here that we can get into later, but he was talking early on in the book about the idea of freedom versus slavery. And of course, in our modern society, we don't have institutionalized slavery anymore. But he says this: the experience of servitude is recurrent through history, and the experience has never been happy. The psalmist, who's talking about the Psalms, lived in a culture in which the slave and the servant were institutionalized as they have been at different times in world history. But now, throughout history, says the cry, we've been kicked around long enough, kicked in the teeth, kicked when we're down. It's believable in the Psalms because it was an institutionalized thing. The Psalm is part of a vast literature of outcry, a longing for deliverance from oppression. So when you read the Psalms nowadays, friend, you see all that, the crying out for freedom, and crying out for relief from oppression, the crying out for help from being kicked when you're down. But the fact is, we live in a similar slavery. Peterson goes on to say, true, we have in Western countries essentially abolished the institutionalized forms of slavery and all but eliminated the formal servant class. But the experience of servitude is still among us and is as oppressive as ever. Because freedom's on everybody's lips. Freedom is announced and celebrated, but not many of us actually feel or act free. And here's the evidence. Peterson says this: we live in a nation of complainers and a society of addicts. Everywhere we turn, we hear complaints. I can't spend my money the way I want. I can't spend my time the way I want. I can't be myself. I'm under the control of others all the time. And everywhere we meet the addicts addicted to alcohol and drugs, to compulsive work habits, and to obsessive consumption. We trade masters, but we stay enslaved. The Christian is a person who recognizes that our real problem is not in achieving freedom, but in learning service under a better master. The Christian realizes that every relationship that excludes God becomes oppressive. Recognizing and realizing that, we urgently want to live under the mastery of God. That's the point that I'm trying to get to here today, friend. We're talking about Remodel May. And Peterson said it right. Every relationship that excludes God ends up causing you more bondage, ends up causing you more trouble. And I'm thinking today, I've been thinking about it for a while, about the idea of guardrails. Like, all of us want freedom. We want to say, can't tell me what to do, can't tell me how to spend my time, can't tell me how to spend my money. Don't try to put limits on me, man. I'm free, right? But the problem is, if you look at life critically, if you don't have some guardrails in place, then you end up wandering into something that hurts you more than it helps you. The unlimited expression of freedom never works out the way we think it will. It never turns out to be good like we thought it would be. I was thinking about Harvey and Lewis the other day, my dogs. We put these GPS collars on them because we have 300 acres, and then we love to let them roam around, get in the river and play and goof around. They love running and exploring this territory. But I tell you what, if we don't have those GPS collars on them, they're going to go past the boundary of our property every time. They're going to cross the river. They're going to get on the other side. They're going to get out into Mrs. Craftsman's cornfield or Mr. Kuhlman's cow field and chase the cattle. They're going to go farther than they're supposed to go. And guess what's going to happen to them out there? Every time they get outside the boundary, they get hurt. They get in a fight with a coyote, or they get torn up by barbed wire. They get, almost get run over by a combine or Jerry Deaver's hayfield. And something happens. Or yesterday, the crop dusters came and sprayed for alfalfa weevils, and the dogs aren't allowed to go out there for 24 hours. But if you don't put those collars on them, they're going to go out there and they're going to get sick from getting, all coated up in that pesticide, right? So the idea is, if we don't put those collars on them, they cannot fully enjoy the freedom that they have, because they will uniformly get themselves hurt or go someplace that's not safe for them if we don't give them some guardrails. And we don't put those guardrails on them because we hate them. We don't put those guardrails on them because we want them to be constrained or limited. We put the guardrails on them because we want them to be able to fully explore and enjoy the freedom that they have without getting injured, killed, lost, stolen, crushed, hurt, otherwise messed up, right? So guardrails are good. And thinking about that, I thought about an episode of the podcast I did last May about the bridges out. It's about the idea that sometimes we get to a place on a trip. We're taking a trip, we're going a direction, and we come to a spot where the bridge is out, where you can't go that route. The other day we did an episode and we talked about when God says you can't have that. Sometimes God says you can't have that. It's just something that you can't have. And you need to take your eye off of it, and I'm going to give you something better in its place. I'm going to give you something that I want you to have right now, instead of what you're longing for from your past, or this thing that you think you have to have now. And in thinking about that, I remember this episode we did about road trips, really, and it's about bridges being out. And sometimes you think you have to go a certain direction, and God says, hey, there's a bridge out up there. And you can go all you want, but you're going to fall off the cliff if you keep going that way. And so sometimes you come to a place where God says, hey, you got to take a different path here, friend. You got to turn this car around and go a different direction, and you're still going to have a great trip, but you can't go the way you thought you were going to go. It's just not going to happen that way. And so this is an episode about kind of how to plan out your trips so you don't run into those places where the bridges are out. And so sorry for the meandering intro here, but just wanted to give you these ideas as setting up this episode I'm going to give you today. I'm going to be in the operating room later. I hope you have an amazing day. And just don't forget the prayer wall. There's a lot going on out there. And if you need prayer, hit wle1md.com/prayer. Also, moving my newsletter over to Substack. It's going to be a great platform. I can already tell we're getting such great engagement from it. I've never had the kind of engagement that we're getting early, as we are getting very early in my relationship with the Substack platform. And if you would like to get my newsletter, you can get it for free. There's options to pay for deeper levels of engagement. There's going to be videos and transcripts and special episodes, and the entire podcast episode is going to be available to the paid subscribers, not just the free 100 episodes that are always up. But if you're interested in the newsletter, and that's a great way to connect with this community, you can sign up for free at drleewarren.substack.com. drleewarren.substack.com. There's a button on there you can push that will get you to the newsletter. So just check it out, and it's going to be amazing. And I think you'll love it. So check out the newsletter, drleewarren.substack.com. Hey, here's the episode, The Bridge is Out. Sometimes you come to a place where you just got to go a different direction. And at the end of that, I'm going to give you back our theme song for Remodel May, which is Tommy Walker's All About Your Glory. I found an old version he did, just him and the acoustic guitar. It's a little bit faster than the live version, but it'll be a great song to get stuck in your head. If you're going to have a song stuck in your head for Remodel May, let it be this one, All About Your Glory. Please pray for Tommy and the team. They're traveling. They're in Europe now. Had a flight yesterday, and they're doing this concert tour around Europe. And Eileen, Tommy's daughter, is a little sick and not feeling great, so pray for her that they'll be able to complete these concerts and encourage and lift up people all over the continent and just bring them home safely. So we're going to give you the bridges out, help you see what happens when God says you can't go that direction. And we're also going to give you Tommy Walker's song, All About Your Glory. And all you have to do, my friend, is start today. So listen, just have a quick thought for you this morning about road trips. Now, this is awfully random, I know. But did you ever take a road trip? Lisa and I took 3 so far in our marriage that have been epic. One was one summer when Kaylin had a camp in Vermont. We flew up to Maine and took a road trip through Maine and New Hampshire and Vermont through the Green and the White Mountains and just had an amazing time. Saw some amazing, beautiful parts of the country. And then we had 2 long road trips from Alabama to Wyoming when we were moving. And we just, because we had never been through a lot of those states, we took 2 different routes. So one time to take my car and some of our gear, and then another time to take her car. We took 2 very different routes and went through, 17 or 18 states that we'd never been to. And just had an amazing, amazing time taking a couple of big road trips. Road trips can be exciting, adventurous, and beautiful, and unless, of course, you have car trouble or detours or accidents or construction. And today we're going to go on a road trip, and we're going to talk about some different ways to look at the travels that we take through life. And as always, friend, we are going to start today. Hey, I'm so glad to have you listening. I'm Dr. Lee Warren, and I live in Nebraska in the United States of America with my incredible, amazing wife, Lisa Warren, and the super pups, Harvey and Lewis, who will not stop crossing the river. I don't know what they're getting into over there, but they are bringing ticks and all kinds of dead animal parts home every day. Hey, I'm a neurosurgeon and an author, and I'm here to help you harness neuroscience, the power of your brain, faith, the power of your spirit, and good old common sense to help you lead a healthier, better, happier life. Listen, friend, you can't change your life until you change your mind. I'm here to help you learn the art of self-brain surgery. To get that done, you can get the show notes and more on my website at wleewarrenmd.com. And if you like the show, please subscribe so you never miss an episode and share it with your friends. Tap those 3 dots and share it with your friends and help us spread far and wide, because I'm Dr. Lee Warren and I'm here to help you change your mind so you can change your life. Let's get after it. Road trips, right? Summertime, relax, set your cruise control, get yourself a playlist, put your feet up on the dashboard if you're not driving. That's actually a bad idea. Don't put your feet on the dashboard. We have now, with airbags, some horrible lower extremity injuries from airbag deployments when people have their feet or knees on the dashboard. So don't do that. But kick back, relax, and enjoy the scenery, right? Now, let's say that you're planning your road trip. You get online. And I literally almost said you get out your atlas. It shows how old I am. Nobody does that anymore. You get online, you pull up some travel site, Google Maps or something, and you look at possible routes to take, right? I'll have a cup of coffee with you here. Hold on. So there's 2 routes you can take on this trip, let's say, for just the sake of argument. One is an interstate highway. Smooth, fast, straight. There's lots of places to stop for fuel or food or bathrooms. It's safe and easy. Boom, that seems like a great route. But you go ahead and look at the alternative route too. The other one is a bunch of farm roads, swamps, places where the road goes through private land and you have to knock on doors and get people to open gates for you. There's some low water bridges. It's kind of dicey. It's a longer route. It takes a lot more hours. It doesn't seem so appealing, right? And this actually happened to my parents once, by the way. They came to see us. All the kids met for Thanksgiving in San Antonio one year. And my parents, who live in Oklahoma, decided they would drive down and spend a few days with us. And they punched the address on the GPS, and it took them on this weird route that actually went through some private ranch land, some dirt roads, where you had to stop and open a gate to continue the journey. Now, I got them there, but it was a really weird, long, circuitous route, not on the beaten path at all. So it happens sometimes. Now, obviously, if you're choosing your path and you're in control of it, most of the time, you would choose the first route, right? The easier one. Because it's easier, it's simpler, it's less likely to hold you up or slow you down or add stress to your drive. Now, just hold that thought for a second before you commit to a route, and hold the thought for a second. Have you ever heard the thing called the Serenity Prayer? It's used in a lot of 12-step programs, and it appears in needlepoint and cross-stitch artwork and frames throughout the South in homes all over the place, and on T-shirts and handbags and all kinds of stuff. The Serenity Prayer is everywhere. Everybody's heard it. And here's the version that you've likely heard. Here's how it goes. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? You've heard that before. Well, that's not the whole story. And Paul Harvey used to do that show, The Rest of the Story. Here's the rest of the story. And it's a beautiful prayer, but here's the rest of the story. It was written by a theologian named Reinhold Neibuhr, and Neibuhr was a major influencer of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, by the way. And here's the full original version of Niebuhr's prayer. God, grant us God, grant us grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed, courage to change the things which should be changed, and the wisdom to distinguish the one from the other, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking as Jesus did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. Now that's beautiful, right? That's a beautiful, beautiful prayer. Let's go back to our road trip for a second. What if I told you that there was just one problem with that first easy interstate route? And here's the problem. Halfway to your destination, there's a bridge out. There's no way around it. It's a huge canyon, miles wide, and you can't get across it on the easy route. And it turns out there's no alternate route. If you get to the bridge and it's out, you've got to turn around and go all the way back. There's no other way. So the only option then, if you want to get to your destination, is to take option B, that other road, the scary, more dangerous, less convenient road. And it will lead you to where you're going, but the trip's going to be a lot harder. You'll still get to the place that you want to go, but it's going to be a much harder trip. Now, it feels different now, right? Your road trip, when it seemed like you had an option of making it very simple and straight and easy, is still available to you. You can still go on the road trip, but it's going to be pretty rough. Now, what do you do? Do you stay home and never experience the journey or reach the destination at all? Do you sell your car and use the money to buy booze and Cheetos and just drink and eat yourself to death because you're so depressed that you can't go the way you wanted to? You buy a virtual reality headset and just pretend that you're on the journey, but you never actually leave your apartment with your 13 cats and the neighbor who's a hoarder? Now, that would be silly, right? It'd be sad to just sit at home and miss the destination because you didn't like the path. Let's read that prayer again. God, give us grace to accept with serenity the things that cannot be changed. Friend, there are some things in life that you just can't change. Right? Sometimes your son dies, and sometimes you get cancer, and sometimes your friend's not nice to you, sometimes your wife doesn't respect you. There's some things you can't change. But also, God, give us the courage to change the things which should be changed. Not just in the original version where things that can change, the things that should be changed. There are some things in your life that you need to change, and you know it. Your heart is telling you already. You need to get off the couch. You need to put down the Xbox controller. You need to stop shopping online. You need to stop drinking so much. There's some things that you need to change, and you can. God will give you the courage to do those things. And God, give us the wisdom to tell the difference. Sometimes we get so bogged down in life. We can't tell the difference between the things that we ought to change and the things that can't be changed. And we start listening to the enemy's lies, and we think some of the things that could change are impossible to change. And some of the things that are never going to change, the enemy makes us think that that's the whole problem. And if we could just get so-and-so to do this thing, that we'd be all right. Well, that's not the truth. There's some things you just have to accept. So here's the deal, friend. Live one day at a time. Enjoy one moment at a time, and accept hardship as a pathway to peace. Sometimes option B is the only road available. And take as Jesus did. The world as it is. Hey, the world's a sinful place. You're not going to change that. You can make a difference in your corner, but you're not going to make everything easy. Jesus didn't either. They killed him for trying, remember? So don't take it as you would have it. Trust that Jesus will make it right if you surrender to his will, so that I might be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. I'm going to take issue with Neibuhr right here. because I believe that the depth of our happiness is infinite. And what I mean by that is not that you're running around with this silly grin on your face, ignoring all the hardship. That's not what I mean. When you accept the happiness that Christ can give you and the well of peace in your heart, you become untouchable. Remember the episode about macaroni? You become the Macarios. You become untouchable because you're so at peace with the fact that you know exactly where you're going and you understand it's going to be hard, but you're going to get there anyway, that nothing that comes along in the journey can knock you off track. Here's the problem with trying to take the easy road through life. The bridge is out. There is no path, friend. Hear me, listen. There is no path to where you want to go in your life that doesn't involve some dirt roads, some detours, some locked gates, some floods, flat tires, or having to pee in the woods sometimes. Life is hard, but the road will take you home. And once you accept that line, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, then you can get that serenity, that peace of mind that will allow you to experience the journey and still be happy. And guess what? There's so much more to see on the scenic route. Right? That's why they call it the scenic route. There are covered bridges, there are waterfalls, there are flocks of geese, there are moose, the world's largest rubber band ball, all kinds of things that you'll see and experience if you're not just trying to medicate and virtual reality your way to some sort of artificial version of happiness, or that you're not so miserable and mad about having to drive through the cow pasture that you drove right past the 12 beautiful unicorns that Farmer Joe Hansen's been hiding in that field in Indiana for years. You'll miss it if you're mad all the time about how hard the trip is. Listen to what Paul said about his journey in 2 Corinthians 11:23-33. I've worked much harder for God, taken more beatings, been dragged to more prisons than they have. I've been flogged excessively multiple times, even to the point of death. 5 times I've received 39 lashes from the Jewish leaders. 3 times I experienced being beaten with rods. Once they stoned me. 3 times I've been shipwrecked. For an entire night and a day I was adrift in the open sea. In my difficult travels I've faced many dangerous situations, perilous rivers, robbers, foreigners, even my own people. I've survived deadly peril in the city, in the wilderness, with storms at sea, and with spies posing as believers. I've toiled to the point of exhaustion and gone with many sleepless nights. I've frequently been deprived of food and water, left hungry and shivering out in the cold, lacking proper clothing. And besides these painful circumstances, I had the daily pressure of my responsibility for all the churches, with a deep concern weighing heavily on my heart for their welfare. Once in Damascus, the governor under King Aretas had his troops searching for me to have me arrested, but I was stuffed in a basket and lowered down through a window and managed to escape. Talk about the scenic route. This is the same guy, by the way, who said in Philippians 4:11-13, I'm not telling you this because I'm in need, for I have learned to be satisfied, content in any circumstance. I know what it means to lack, and I know what it means to experience overwhelming abundance, for I'm trained in the secret of overcoming all things, whether in fullness or in hunger, and I find that the strength of Christ's explosive power infuses me to conquer every difficulty. And in Philippians 4:4, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again. Rejoice. Let's hear that prayer one more time. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking as Jesus did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. How about that, friend? The bridge is out, but the journey is so worth it. How do we get that peace, that serenity? Through self-brain surgery. You got to change your mind about it. Pray for the wisdom to see the unicorns and the rubber band balls instead of the potholes and the speed traps. And Jesus said in John 16:33, I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. Jesus made it to the destination, and that's how you know you can too. Take heart, friend. Get on the road. Sure, the bridge is out on the easy way, but there's so many great moments on the scenic route. Quit asking, are we there yet? And start enjoying the ride, because there's beauty even in the rough parts. You just have to start today. Hey, thanks for listening. The Dr. Lee Warren podcast is listener supported. Check out patron.podbean.com/Dr. Lee Warren, patron.podbean.com/Dr. Lee Warren. Patrons and partners get all kinds of special stuff, free books, transcripts, patron-only episodes monthly, and the entire back catalog of the You Start Today podcast. Partners like you allow us to stay ad-free and keep growing. And please subscribe so you never miss an episode. Go to my website, wlee1md.com, for more information about my newsletter, the show, my books, and more. Stay tuned for our social media app that's coming out, the Infinitely Happier app, and it's invitation only, so you can't get invited to be part of the social media app unless you are on the newsletter. So wlee1md.com/newsletter is where you'll find out about that. Hey, the theme music for the show is Water into Wine by Tommy Walker, graciously provided for free by Tommy and the good people who are changing the world at Tommy Walker Ministries. Get the music for free and consider supporting Tommy's great work at TommyWalkerMinistries.org. If you need prayer, go to the prayer wall at wlee1md.com/prayer, wlee1md.com/prayer. Check it out. It's an amazing little prayer community of people praying for each other all over the world. Remember, friend, you can't change your life until you change your mind, and you have to start today. I'm Dr. Lee Warren. I'll talk to you soon. God bless you, and have a great day.
I want to make my life all about your glory. I want to spend my days telling the world your story. In everything I do, in everything I say, following after you, oh, giving you thanks and praise. I want to make my life all about your honor, morning, noon, and night. My best I want to offer in everything I do, in everything I say, following after you, oh, giving you thanks and praise. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Make me an instrument, make me a song of praise, make me a shining light that radiates your ways, make me your masterpiece. Lord, put me on display that I may ever be a picture of your grace. Oh, 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 yeah. Your glory, your honor, that's what I want my life to be. All about your goodness, your kindness, your life in me, ever reaching out, your mercy, forgiveness. That's what I want my life to be. All about your love and your power, your life in me, ever reaching out. Hey, your glory, your honor, that's what I want my life to be. All about your goodness, your kindness, your life in me, ever reaching out, your mercy, forgiveness. That's what I want my life to be. All about your love and your power, your life in me, ever reaching out.